Greetings, mind crafters, and welcome to another fabulous discussion here. And I will tell you that in northern Vermont, it is there's a peaceful summer rain going on. Just sort of a lovely atmosphere to have a discussion with you today. So my name is Kimberly Quinn, and I'm here with little Giovanni, our golden retriever. He's kind of taking a snooze right next to me. And today I'd like to talk about perception and prosperity. So here's the skinny on the street, all right? Your ability to be prosperous and successful is very, very much directly related to how you perceive the world. When you walk out the door in the morning, you kind of perceiving that, what's going to go wrong, what's going to get you kind of thing, or do you look at the world as kind of this, you know, uh, like kind of like I want to say like a playground to be truthful, of just full of opportunity and there's big opportunity with workplace and school stuff, but I mean just like what's something interesting is going to happen to me today? What good things are going to cross my path? They might be small things. You might meet a new cool stranger, or you might reconnect with an old friend or whatever. So looking at it more like a playground of opportunity, this wonderful unknown, space where good stuff can happen and who knows what, or is it an out to get you situation? Because how we are currently looking at and processing the events in daily interactions in our life is actually huge. So just ask yourself this question right now: how do I look at life? How do I look at life in general? Obviously, things are going to fluctuate here and there with life and moods and whatever like that. But in general, how do you look at life? Is it more a positive view or more of a negative view in general again, or somewhere in the middle? And obviously, we're influenced by and shaped by our family, our friends, people at school and the workplace. But here's the thing: we're also influenced by our own, I guess I want to call it ego chatter, right? Ego chatter because there's all this verbiage, all this internal dialogue that goes on about what our expectations are, what our limitations are. We often these and the limitations often drag us into some scarcity dialogue, which is coming from a scarcity mindset, which is also directly related to pessimism and cyclic pessimistic thinking. So it's kind of important to understand that we're shaped by, again, the people, the family, the friends, of course, chosen family. I'm a big fan. We are shaped and influenced in very positive ways, of course, very positive ways with the good vibes out there. And also, we can kind of internalize our opinions that aren't so positive, which doesn't help us at all. It's just very important to realize the chatter that's coming from the vault of the unconscious. We've talked about it before. Joe Dispenza does a lot of talk about this, that I think it's after the age of 35 it's kind of etched, but we can always turn it around. It's just harder. That's so we just need to be aware of the fact we've talked about the 17-second rule too. So whenever these old patterns of thinking, sort of surge up, that's when we need to nip it in the bud and talk back to it. It's super, super important because otherwise, if we keep thinking the same thoughts, then we are feeling the same feelings and doing the same behavior, and nothing is changing. So it's very, very important to challenge this. So also when we allow this cyclical negative thinking, what can feel linear is actually more web-like. So think of it like a spider web, and the more we try to struggle with it, dig into it, clench our claws into it, the more like just like with when something gets caught in a spider web, the more we struggle, the more we get caught up in it. I mean, it's just how it works with the universe, right? Because the universe our thoughts expand in the universe with every single thought we think. So this is why it's super, super important to get a handle on these. And again, we also know, right? Thoughts come first. Is the whole basis of Minecraft. This is in one sentence: thoughts first, feelings second, action behavior third. Which is why it's so important to become the boss of your brain, right? So it's ultra, ultra, ultra important to get a handle on these thoughts, which, when repeated over and over and over again, become beliefs. Remember, when thoughts are all grown up, they become beliefs. And this is where our perception really, really, kind of takes root. And so the thoughts, feelings, behavior thing, right? So whatever we're allowing in, and the word is allow in, is thoughts, directly leads to our feelings, right? And we know for a fact that negative, emotion leads like a direct path to negative experience, right? That's the behavior piece: thoughts, feelings, behavior. Same is true with, positive thoughts lead to positive feelings, and positive emotion leads directly to positive experience. And so it's so important to debunk all that crappy ego chatter. It's just junk, with the expectations, the limiting beliefs, and the pessimistic cyclical thinking, because it doesn't do us any good whatsoever. Negative emotion leads to negative experience. So if you're trying to, manifest, and you're thinking about all these successful things you like and your heart's desires and all that, unless you kind of, crunch and then, delete all the expectation, limiting beliefs, and pessimistic thinking, unless you clear out the junk, there's going to be a conflict, and it's the manifestation piece is not going to happen as long as all that junk is filling up your mental space. So here's the deal: if you're sort of, telling yourself that you want to have more abundance flowing into your life, right? We all want more abundance flowing into our life, and that you want to be successful and prosperous, and all this really good stuff. Guess what? And the thing is, the reality is, it isn't going to happen if you're soaking yourself. Picture yourself, maybe without the visual of the nakedness, right, or whatever. But go ahead and picture yourself soaking in a bath of limiting beliefs. Again, it's supposed to be a picture with lots of bubbles, and it all works. So picture yourself just immersed in this bath, and if you've got limiting beliefs on, think if you're literally submerged in that, what is going to come out of that? You get out of the tub, you've been soaking in limiting beliefs. Well, then, it's not going to go anywhere, versus you're soaking in this lovely bath. And maybe let's just jazz this up a little bit with all kinds of lavender scents, candles lit around the bathtub, some massage music, some nice acoustical music, and it's all about, you're soaking in this bathtub of gratitude for all the good stuff going on now, all the good stuff now, and you're picturing, what it feels like to have this heart's desire, to really feel with gratitude all the way through, your heart's desire, and what it feels like to actually, when that actually happens, you soak in that bathtub, and then you get out, and your whole world, your whole life is going to change pretty immediately. So I'd like you to, seriously, stop for a second. Stop for maybe, let's just say a minute. A second's not going to be overly helpful. 60 seconds, and if you can, maybe 120 seconds, even be better. Stop and just ask yourself, how much time do you spend, talking away positive thoughts? That you might even be in automatic pilot mode, which we know is the biggest thief of life minutes there is, right? How much time do you spend talking away positive thoughts? Just rationalizing. Oh, well, that can't happen. I can't get to it today. I wanted to make that phone call for that job lead, or that whatever with the book I wanted to write, and I'd get them, mañana. How much time do you spend talking away positive thoughts, successful thoughts? By rationalizing how these probably won't happen or won't come to fruition. Really think about that. And after you ponder that, question yourself about some of the things we've already learned, right? We've talked about the 17-second rule. And so if you have allowed a limiting belief to, just chat on its own for more than 17 seconds, you've just strengthened it significantly. That is research, neuroscience based info. If we can nip it in the bud before 17 seconds, it is much easier to shift out of and into a more positive place. Doesn't mean after 17 seconds. Obviously, I'm a fabulous 58. There's been lots of seconds there, and I can still choose to, get rid of unwanted thoughts, even if they came back, even if they kind of erupted from when I was 10 or something, of course. But it's a much heavier lift, obviously. So prevention, as I said, it's kind of cliche, but prevention is the best medicine. Start nipping that stuff in the bud now, and it saves all the heavy lifting later. Just don't picture it like seeds. Don't allow them to germinate. If you get a bad seed, rip it out of the ground, and throw it in a campfire or something. Just don't allow it. And then the seeds to come in, and all the good feels. Somebody said something nice to you. Somebody gave you a lead. Somebody gave you a lift, a boost, professionally or personally, emotionally, spiritually, whatever. Feel the good feels of all of that. Let it in, because the brain loves patterns. So it's not just you know, the everyday, patterns of doing this or that or that or this, but also the patterns of emotional patterns of feeling good. The brain, when it is used to the good feels, is going to seek out more good feels. It's just how it works. And I'm going to, of course, reel in one of my faves. I talk about all I was going to say inner circle of great thinkers, in addition to my family, of course. I've got a lot of great thinkers in my family, and my chosen family as well, right? But Wayne Dyer is just he passed a bit ago, and much too soon. He's in his, I think, early 70s, and wow, he was actually granted the label or title, or however you want to say, of the one of the greatest spiritual leaders ever in the world. And I forget, it was in the top, definitely in the top 10. I feel like he was much higher up than that. He was way up high. Anyway, I would have loved to have lunch with him, and I feel such a strong connection to him, actually, even now. So Wayne Dyer talked a whole lot about, he was big on self reliance. He says that was his whole lesson, his own life lesson. And he said that's why he was tossed into an orphanage and learned early on how to rely on himself. And then later on in his adult years, he learned to he I'm sorry he became very much about teaching self-reliance, and seizing control of your own life. And he talks so much about, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. That's a an oldie but a goodie. That's a Wayne Dyer quote for the ages. If you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And the thing is, sometimes people say, "Oh, she's talking in bumper sticker or whatever." No, no, this stuff is real. It all starts with the mind. We control the mind. We control our lives. That is it. I mean, obviously, there's some uncontrollables here and there. Truthfully, though, as we know, uh, we talked about this also. I'm just going to interject this right now. Right now, as far as with Sean Aker, author of The Happiness Advantage, which I would strongly encourage you to read. I use it for my Minecraft class, actually. But when he talks about, our happiness level, too, is people think, oh, my genetics, my this, my life circumstances, all of that is less than 20% of what makes up our overall happiness level. It's very, very low. I forget exactly. That's why I'm saying less than 20%. 80% is our choice. It's how we choose to shape our mind. And so it's important to realize that this is not just bumper sticker talk. So I'll ask you, can you change the way you view your world? Can you change the way you view your world? How you think about things? So ask that of yourself. I already know the answer. It's an absolute yes. So the thing is, we can absolutely flip the script on scarcity thinking, and that's typically at the top. There are other things. There's deprivation based thinking, which is very kind of rolls right in. I'm thinking of shame based thinking also rolls right in. Scarcity thinking is kind of like the umbrella for those two things. And it's important to realize that when we're coming from a place of scarcity, all that's going to come out of it is more scarcity, because that's how the universe works. And scarcity, it's important to realize that it's not just a thinking pattern; it's an actual mindset. Because when you think in a certain way for a long period of time, the brain catches on, like we said, patterns, 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 and it kind of takes on a life of its own. And that's when it's a mindset. So we're coming from a place of not enough, not just money. People often jump to money, but I'm not, thin enough, smart enough, successful enough. I'm coming from a place of scarcity. I'm a self-esteem poor, self-love poor, self-acceptance poor. There's all kinds of ways to be poor. Realize that prosperity is not going to come out of that. You can't get there from here. You can't get thin by hating being fat. You can't get wealthy by hating being poor. And hate isn't a word I usually use. It's to make a point right now. I didn't even allow it in the house when the kids were growing up, because hate just doesn't get it go anywhere good. But the reason I'm using it here is to emphasize how impossible that is. You can only love yourself to thin, and love yourself to wealthy, and love yourself into good shape and love yourself into prosperity. And it comes from uh, being 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 self-loving, knowing your value, and celebrating all the breadcrumbs along the way with gratitude. That is the way. That's the way that success happens. And to bring Sean Aker in again, he tells us how ass backwards the formula is for success here in this wonderful country of ours. I do love my country. However, we have this wrong, which is that once I'm successful, then I'll be happy. Doesn't work that way. It's once I am truly, authentically happy, that is when I can be successful. That is when prosperity flows like a waterfall right into our lives. Okay, so here's the thing. I'm just going to reiterate. You can absolutely, positively change your current situation, your own current what is situation by changing how you see it. I am sure no matter what the thing is going on, what the thing is, you can shift out of it no matter how bad it was and see the growth in it. That you got to change the way you look at things, and then you will see the things you look at change. So 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 here's the thing. You must believe this, that first of all, in the universe in general, you can call it God, source, creator of all things, higher power, stick with the universe, whatever. But or and the spiritual connection is essential to be prosperous and successful. That's just a fact, Jack. Just a fact, Jack, because this is the divine, the divine source is what we're talking about here. And that's how we become our authentic self, is being, connected. I'm not talking about religion. I'm talking about spirituality, realizing there's something bigger than ourselves, basically. And that it's just full, loaded with abundance and infinitely. This is ultra important to get this, because sometimes people have abundance guilt, which sounds like well, it is a contradiction and an oxymoron, I guess, because sometimes people have this thing, and it comes down to self value, that, oh, if I have too much abundance, that they start to feel guilty because somebody else doesn't have this and somebody else doesn't have that. That is ridiculous, because abundance is infinite. So picture it like a pizza, and in reality, if there were two pizzas and they're, let's say it's a dinner, you're having a little gathering of, 6 or 7 people. Well, yeah, you should ask, before you take a second one, does somebody get there first? But that's in an earthly, physical, situation. And with the universe, there's no shortage of pizza, metaphorically speaking. So if you take 2 slices, 10 slices, 20 slices, however many slices, it doesn't affect anybody else, because the abundance is infinite. And Wayne Dyer also talks about this, how important it is to shake that guilt. People will say, oh, how can I be happy with everything going on in the world? There's starvation and there's such poverty and there's this and that. It doesn't mean take action. Absolutely. Pick something that you're passionate about and make a difference. 100%. 100%. And that said, just the feeling to feel badly, because that doesn't, and Wayne Dyer says it best himself, you can't feel badly enough to make somebody go from poor to wealthy. You can't feel badly enough for somebody to go from, a very severe, systematic illness to healthy. You can't do that. You can take action for things, but you feeling badly doesn't help anything. So it's very important to shake that guilt, because all the universe, thoughts expand. We've talked about it. Every single thought expands. So if the universe is picking up on your guilt, you just got a check in the mail, you just got an opportunity. If you respond to that with guilt, the universe is going to send you more opportunities to feel guilty about. And that's all scarcity. It's going to send you more scarcity. You got to shake that. And it comes down to self-value and believing that you deserve all the abundance the universe has to offer you. Okay, so that is quite possibly one of the biggest, I know it's one of the biggest blockers, quite possibly the biggest block to people, to people sort of receiving abundance, is not feeling worthy of it. That's the number one. Got to shake that. Got to shake that. And shed all the guilt, shed all of it, the shame, the guilt, everything. Because you got to be, shift out of that scarcity mindset place in order for, this. Let's just picture a waterfall. Just picture some of the amazing ones like Hawaii. In fact, my husband and I and some of our kids were just out west, and Yellowstone Park. And right now, in my mind's eye, I don't even know if it has a name. Probably it does. But we were in Yellowstone. It was just this cascading waterfall over this cliff that kind of bulged out a little bit. So it didn't just go straight down. It kind of like went up and over, and absolutely intoxicating. Absolutely intoxicating. And people use that word often for substances when it's unfortunate, because really intoxicating is about just filling up the senses up and over the top. And staring at that waterfall in that, overlooking the canyon with the bluebird sky and all the different types of trees, and the wildflowers were up and down the cliffs and amazing. Intoxicating is the word that would describe that, right? And so all that, taking all that in can't happen. Just picture it like a full closet. If a closet's full of old clothes you don't wear and old shoes you don't wear, there's no room for a new outfit. Got to clear all of it out, spiritually speaking, emotionally speaking, so that that waterfall, the wildflowers, all of that can come in abundance, 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 and knowing that you are worthy of it, worthy of it. So that takes us from your heart, knowing you're worthy is the first step, then asking or putting it out there, however you want to do, and then creating as much as you can, like an open picture. Like it is baseball season. Picture an open catcher's mitt, just ready for the baseball to land there. I mean, just be ready, 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 with a clean closet, clean mind, and ready for all this new information and new experiences, new people, new everything to come into your life. And so that's really it. Perception and prosperity are super linked. Change your perception of how you perceive the world and open the door to that waterfall of prosperity. This is Kimberly Quinn signing off from the beautiful, very rainy northern Vermont. Have a mindful and prosperous day.